like, I really think this came from a good place, especially from the group who did it. But
that's kind of the trolly nature, though, of things now. That there used to be the town asshole. Used to everybody kind of knew who it was,
right?
And
now there's some
kind of walk around, and
we all let to get to our
I honestly want to go there. I feel like we should have a field trip to just go see this.
The seesaws.
I'm sure I would bawl my eyes out.
But the misinformation is just horrible and that's the real tragedy, is that people question what it is, what we kind of know to be true, that now everybody's become skeptical of everything.
It's funny. There's a lot of this. This could lead me into a whole conversation about that imposter syndrome, which I feel like I've been having a little bit of this happening to me recently. Tell me you haven't heard this.
I haven't heard it.
It's 70% of people experience it. Women experience it more frequently and much stronger than most men, but it's basically the feeling that you don't belong in the room, the conversation, the job that you are in.
Oh, that's my whole life. Perfect.
I mean, you go through these moments where you're, and I'm really learning to listen to what's happening inside me right now. And I've always had a very strong intuitive nature, and I just ignore it always, right? And I'm learning. And what's interesting is
that's terrible.
I know, but there's more. The more you start listening to it, the louder it gets. Mm-hmm. And I know that sounds obvious, but it's like to a point where there's like your body is screaming at you. This is the thing. Mm-hmm. And even still, there are moments in which I question my legitimacy in whatever thought process I'm going through or whatever project I'm getting ready to embark in. And it's annoying. It's annoying. And it's indicative of just the way society, I don't get it. I just don't get it. Like, you see what we do here, and we're so small on the spectrum of do-gooders, and I'd like to say that I provide an environment in which people can really connect and collaborate and grow in whatever way works for them. And so we're a small version of that. But the fact is, I don't even know where I was going with that.
What are you talking about?
I was trying to follow you. I mean, this is really interesting. It was connected to
there was
something
about
seesaws.
We went from seesaws to
across the border.
What the hell are we doing here? I don't know. Anyway. Good on you for
good on you. Yes.
Good on you for what you're doing.
I will share.
Congratulations.
So I have a couple of friends who work for what is kind of oddly a locally based. They're based in Sebastopol, national organization called Grant Makers Concerned with Immigrant and Refugee Rights. And what they do is they are an organizing body of foundations and philanthropies, trying to push them and create awareness about issues that are affecting immigrants and refugees. So whether they are like a Baptist hospital in Mississippi, who has a number of immigrants that are accessing services, or that somebody right on the border, they're trying to help those foundations start to fund programs and raise awareness about the specific issues that immigrants and refugees face. And so I've recently met with a couple of them, and they said that the nonprofits that are doing the work on the border, what they are asking for, because I was like, I'm going to go volunteer on the border. Like, I speak Spanish. Maybe I can be helpful. Yeah. Like, I'm not a lawyer. Like, what will I do? Can I hold somebody's hand? Like, And they said the thing that's like, you'd think they're going to ask for a donation. And they're like, yes, okay, we could use money. What we need more than anything is people to become civically engaged. We need politicians in place that prioritize immigration reform and humanity at the forefront.
Yeah.
So vote, right, and get other people to vote, and get other people in other states to vote.
Also,
we're thinking maybe we need to move to Wyoming and make our vote count more and flip it.
Yeah, it's come to mind. We're
let's
big,
all do it.
We're big on the Yang Gang at home too. Speaking
it's
of
interesting
humanity
that
first.
I never thought
Can
about
we say that. Can I say Andrew Yang for president? Am I allowed?
You can say anything you want.
I think I just
did. My podcast.
Views and opinions expressed herein are not
sanctioned by whatever.
Are the expressors alone?
Yes.
I think there's another component, which is more of a long game, and I think it's one that should not be overlooked, especially in communities like, I will use Petaluma as an example. I love Petaluma, but I think the best way for people to understand the importance of humanity, of what these immigrants, documented or not, and I'm not saying, obviously there are things that we can do governmentally and bureaucratically that can improve the process, but there are things that are being the best way to convince somebody that this needs to be considered is to allow them to experience a relationship with another culture.
Yeah.
To have a conversation with somebody whom they haven't had a conversation with, to learn what their name is, to meet their children, to establish a relationship with their family. We have such a large population here, and there's a woman in town. Her name is Emily Thomas. She runs Cafe Puente. She's also runs Marin Spanish School. She's a young girl who's full of like zest and idealism and very integrated into the community here, the Spanish speaking community here. And her goal is to create situations and events and places in town where you and I can go have a conversation with the people who maybe don't speak English and who are part of our community, who are every bit as part of our community, but they're living, 4 miles on the other side of the freeway and in their own little community. And what's happening is there's this segregation of population.
Yeah.
Just because you're comfortable being with your people and they're, it's like, just have a conversation, have a coffee with somebody and learn, make a friend and understand that they're human and that they have a family and that they have a history and that there's a reason that they're here and not there. And that is, again, it's part of the long game, but it's like, just shake somebody's hand and learn who they are. Yeah. And I think when you establish those relationships with another person in another culture, regardless of whether it's from Mexico or any Spanish-speaking country or any language, you build a relationship and you build a connection, and you're like, oh, these are my people too. And
it humanizes when you understand this young woman who is, and this is a real story from, and I could draw on 100 of these. This is a young woman who had all the odds against her to get to college because she was low income. She was going to a school where it was underfunded, blah, blah, blah. And English is her second language. And when you realize she got into Mills College, like against all odds. And then you find out, and you're like, yes, that like totally behind her. And then you find out she was brought here when she was 2 months old. And she was brought here undocumented. And she knows nobody in Mexico because her mom was fleeing a father who was so abusive that the mother's now blind in her left eye and like completely blind. Do you then say, oh, I'm not thinking you're going to be like an amazing contributor to our society because now I realize you shouldn't be here and you should go back to where you came from? But by the way, there's nobody there. You've never been there.
Right. This is her home.
You have no connection to family there. And in fact, any family that you had there would be unsafe for you to be around. And so when you connect with people like that, you realize like, oh, wait a second. I mean, and that was like, I had a brother who died of a drug overdose who I loved dearly, but he was not a contributing member of society. And really, we're going to prioritize his rights and him over somebody like the dreamers. This is the thing that really gets me, is the dreamers who were brought here or came here when they
don't know any different,
when they were young, or if they know different, they're not connected. And they are trying to contribute to make this a better place. And so, I could go
Shit's not going to be crazy forever. I mean, even they're running out people that have served in the military. Which used to be another pathway to try to get to America.
I was good enough to serve in the military.
Insane.
No, I'm not good enough. Yeah, I'm like you. Don't get me started. But I do feel this pull to start educating myself a little bit more about the practicality of how I can contribute and how my voice can be heard, even if it's only within these 9,000 square feet. I mean, luckily I feel like that's probably not the group of people that I need to be evangelizing to, but I'm a member of the Petaluma community. I can see that there are people who really want to come together, and it takes by the way, it takes effort on both sides. The Spanish speaking population also needs to feel like, okay, we need to also make an effort, and we need to want to be a part of the community as well, right?
I think that's one of the knocks, right?
It's the sense
there's
that
no blame,
there's
bullshit,
no
though, that people don't want to integrate. They do,
Right. So it just needs to, there needs to be people to bring experiences where everybody can. This wonderful. You should meet Emily. She's just adorable.
I would love to.
And she's very sweet. They've done an event here as well. Anyway, this has been amazing. I am so happy to have you here, and I'm so happy to have you in our space.
I still want to talk immigration. Can I do immigration?
You can talk immigration all you want. We're going to wrap this thing
up. Okay, good. Because the one stupid thing is they raided that chicken plant. I mean, it's insane. They arrest 380 people.
The one right down the street?
No, in Mississippi.
In Mississippi.
Oh, I'm like, wait a minute. I missed that headline.
Ours is probably next.
Okay.
No, but they raid a chicken plant and arrest 300 people who are working, contributing. Not only that, it's just insane. And nobody who goes into the decision-making processes of hiring illegals or anything else has to worry about anything. There's no trouble for those people.
Right.
And they're picking
not
on
to
the
mention
people.
that the data shows that most undocumented people pay taxes.
Oh, totally. But who wants those people arrested? They're working.
Who's going to do it? Who's going to?
They're working
make
in a
the
chicken plant.
Who's going to make the chicken?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's
I'm just the short-sightedness
Who would want
of all of
that?
it.
It's just insane.
I don't know.
Okay, now you can do it. I got my 2 bits
you get your
in.
2 cents in?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. All right. So I'm excited to hear about who's going to win the scholarship.
Yeah.
We have a couple days to find out about that.
Yep.
I'm more excited to know. Do you have a little bit of a timeline idea on your your departure?
Yeah, so we thought we would be gone by this summer, and the visa process is taking longer. It's more complicated, and so it was looking more like December, January, and we thought, oh my God, we can't pull our daughter out of school. Again, we dropped her into a school here mid-year, and she loves her teachers, and she loves her friends, and blah, blah, blah. So we told her she could do 6th grade here. So
oh my God, you just blah, blah, blah everything your daughter loves.
No, I said she loves her teachers and she loves her friends.
Yeah.
Well, just kidding.
That's okay. That's good. That you can build up a little bit of enthusiasm for it, and we've been very clear. She cannot go to the same school for 7th grade because the school she goes to 8th, and we've just said you can't, and she hasn't questioned why. We've just made it this is not. So
this
she's
isn't
not
a
has
school
an idea. She doesn't have an idea that you're moving.
Oh no, she totally knows.
Oh, okay.
She totally knows. And we have an only child, and we didn't get to our living situation, which is completely fine and not podcast worthy. But we live very, very on top of each other right now.
Yeah.
So she knows everything.
Got it.
Good.
Almost.
Almost everything.
Don't let her listen to the podcast because she'll learn more than she needs to.
Yeah. But at any rate,
how do we find out more about the program, or where do we find you?
www.fullpotentialventures.com.
Yay, that's it? No Instagram?
Oh, yeah.
Facebook can go to hell.
Yeah, we've got all that, and LinkedIn.
But you can get all that from the website, right?
Yes,
Probably.
It's all on the website.
What was the website again?
www.fullpotentialventures.com.
Yeah.
Show notes.
Thank you,
we just need to do a hashtag called show notes, because I feel like every podcast I listen to is let's just put that in the show notes.
I know, and then
we forget.
Yeah, it never gets there.
Yesterday I posted a podcast episode and I forgot to mark the explicit box. And
oh my God!
I had to go back in. I was like, Yeah.
And thank you, Kim Crawford.
Yes, thank you, Kim Crawford, for keeping keeping us hydrated or something. Thank you. I'm going to put this up right away. I'm so excited to hear all about the scholarship and everything else you have coming.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Of course. See you.